Hello, Recursive community, and welcome from Athens. Here with me in Attractus is Niki Karali, the co-founder of Mantis Business Innovation, a company which provides growth strategies, innovation programs, and startup scouting, together with an innovation management software to digitize the whole process. Niki is also an active startup ecosystem builder. She has helped organizations like StartupNow, the StartupNow Forum, the largest startup event in the country. Niki, welcome to the Recursive podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Let me throw you a bit back in time. I was very curious, what led you into civil engineering? Why an engineer? This is a bit of an untypical profession for a woman, right?
It is.
Yeah?
It actually is. It used to be. Now it's more like 50%.
Okay.
Both women and men, so it's not that odd anymore. But what led me to that was when I was a kid. I think I was basically more intense, and I was into gymnastics as an athlete. Mm-hmm. So I was competing on a competitive level.
Oh, really?
And I think this is the part where, as a kid, I learned how to find myself better, to create new strategies, to realize how my body works, and become more persistent, be more competitive, more flexible, be able to go on a place where you're not able to, you just need to be patient and persistent. So engineering has all the same requests from a person. It's not a subject that I really liked when I joined, but since I started it, I need, from what I learned, I had to finish. I had to be complete and full of these studies, and this is how I ended up right after that on the startup ecosystem and on businesses on the first part.
This is actually quite curious. What did you imagine that you're going to be when you started civil engineering at the university?
The thing is, I didn't really know. I just chose it because I thought it had the most, I could make the most out of it. Like, you had so many options when you were a civil engineer. So this is why I went after it. It's not like I was never a visionary, like I want to be a civil engineer and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I always see things more in a short-term basis. So when I see an opportunity, I think I grab it. And it felt right at the time. Like, you have so many things to explore. And this is how I ended up a civil engineer. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
The flexibility that you developed already in gymnastics obviously helped you after that adapt to...
flexibility and adaptability. Like, yes. I think it's mainly one of the most important characteristics that I have.
And this is also a very important requirement if you then pursue a career in entrepreneurship. How did that happen? What fascinated you about entrepreneurship and maybe later on the startup ecosystem, which at this point was probably very in its early stage? Yeah,
that's true. Well, I was on my senior year as a civil engineer, and I wasn't happy about my choice, as I explained. So I was looking of other ways to contribute to the community, to do something more voluntarily, to become part of something that would fascinate me, and something perhaps more environmental. And I was seeking to that places as well. So at my senior year, I started looking for something more entrepreneurial, and this is how I ended up on a student committee occupying on entrepreneurship. And this is how I met Christos, who is my co-founder on Mantis. And he had already done his PhD thesis on the evaluation of startups. And, I was totally aligned with the scope and the vision of what he was doing. Well, we totally changed it in the meantime, but, it was a good start point to get on board in an entrepreneurial journey. So basically, yeah, adaptability, flexibility, and the curiosity to go on a way where you can offer services, where you can be more helpful. This drove me to entrepreneurship.
What is actually the mission of Mantis?
What it is?
Yes.
Well, it has changed over the years, but what we have finally said it is like connecting startups to large corporations and public organizations, and we help every organization to be able to innovate and become part of the innovation ecosystem. So it's basically on the part of the connection with startups and captivate the innovation and the entrepreneurial minds that all startuppers do have.
You have probably a very good overview of the startup ecosystem at this stage, if you are connecting both worlds together. Tell me, from your perspective, what is the state of the startup ecosystem currently in Greece, and what would be the most important ingredient to bring it to the next stage, where we will be seeing more and more unicorns, where we'll be seeing more and more young people jumping into entrepreneurship? What do you think?
Actually, I'm going to start from the last point. This is the direction that we work for. We work closely with universities as well to raise this need for new researchers and new people, new ideas to turn into entrepreneurship. So this is like the backbone of Mantis, raising entrepreneurial people and ideas. At this point, on a governmental level in Greece, we have done so many efforts. There have been happening for some years now, but at this point, these efforts can be even measurable. You can see the results of these efforts, and in terms of the government, they have helped. They have had a key role on the success, on the development. I'm not going to say success, the development of the startup ecosystem in Greece, because they have backed via Equifund and the HDBI with some funds to the startup ecosystem, and now via the Elevate Greece initiative that we were in charge of. In the development, they backed with another 60 million to startups due to the coronavirus last year, which was a great help. And they're going to continue with more. There are more incentives to be given to entrepreneurs and startups in Greece. So I'm going to say we're at a good point, but we have a lot of steps forward.
I'm curious about the Elevate initiative, but first of all, you mentioned that you can now measure the progress of the ecosystem. Can you maybe just share a couple of numbers that you have been observing which make this progress tangible?
Actually, one of them is the Elevate Greece initiative. It was a need from the government. Like when we started, it was a clear need that we had to map what's going on in Greece. Like we didn't even know what startup really is. What's the clear definition of a startup, and what they do? How many of them there are in Greece? Like, are they many? Or there are no? We didn't know. So that was a clear request from the government. Like we have to map them down. And this is how we came up with the Elevate Greece initiative. And so about the numbers, we are currently numbering like 500 startups, more or less, which are registered in the official registry of startups in Greece. And you can find all the information about them, their founders and what they do, like a small startup database, which covers the whole region of Greece.
By the way, because this is a very common problem, not being able to differentiate SMEs from startups. what makes a startup, like in the Greek definition?
Okay, so we had this problem in the beginning, but since this is, the algorithms that we have been working with to finalize what the startups really are, we basically have two components to clarify when we're looking for a startup. And as far as the Elevate Greece initiative stands for, we search for a part of innovation, and then we search the part of scalability. And that means that someone markets a product or a service, that it can be global without any parameterization to any place of the world.
Okay.
So this is very important, because this is what makes you different from, I don't know, let's say a coffee shop. You can be at the same time without any, at the same time, the same product, the same service, without any change to different users.
With Vivo Wallet, which just recently became a unicorn, why is this an important metric from your point of view? What does it mean for the ecosystem? And when do you expect that you would be seeing more and more of them mushrooming from the different parts of the country?
Well, it's a very important achievement. Nobody can say otherwise. And it's not only an important achievement for Vivo Wallet itself, it's for the whole of Greece and the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And that is because mainly it's the first time that Greece actually shows that we have the infrastructure and all the tools for anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur and start a startup to do so. So apart from all the methodologies and the tools that already exist in Greece, we now have the bright examples of Vivo Wallet and of course others like InstaShop or Softomotive, etc., who have done great work, and we have these bright examples to be able to become visionary about it and chase it, go after it. So this is what it gave to the startup ecosystem.
Like a good example, something
a great
which
example.
Inspires them.
Something to inspire them, yeah.
And do you think Vivo Wallet is an outlier, or is it truly also a product of the ecosystem? Because I think this is an important question to ask. We will be seeing also every now and then these outliers, but just recently one of our guests, or maybe I read it somewhere, that a startup is as big as the ecosystem. So if you have like a middle class in the ecosystem, you will be having also a very good quality of startups. And maybe not all of them will become unicorns, but overall the impact by accumulating, the success of each of the companies will be greater than if you have just one outlier. So what do you think?
Well, I don't think it's just an outlier. Vivo Wallet was in business far in the past. I think they were in business like 15 years ago, and they were always pivoting and changing, their products and services. It's not like a one-time thing. We did that, it was successful, and we go for the next. And this is how it shows that you have to be persistent, and you need to share and realize what the market needs at each time, because the circumstances change. And for example, even last year with COVID, everything was different, and all startups and every company at the world had to adjust. So I'm not going to say it's an outlier. It shows the quality of the entrepreneurial ecosystem as a total, because we are, far behind from having multiple unicorns being born at the same time. But we can go down that way because we have the infrastructure now.
Yes. Another aspect that, Greece seems to be leading is also in the field of clean energy. What would be the most helpful in boosting the efforts to develop the energy independence that we all are currently speaking about and that we need in the whole region?
That's going to be a difficult one, Clean energy is a key commodity, which can even bring you out to a hostage situation like it happened now with the Ukrainian war. It is crucial to happen, but it's going to be difficult. And clean tech and environmental startups find it 200% more difficult to be successful than other tech startups. Okay. They need more time and they need more money to become successful. And time is very important because it's not the same thing to create a software rather than creating an environmental technology. But it's there, and even we as Mantis ourselves, we have started working at this direction. And we have created an open call for startups to submit proposals and new ideas on how we can tackle this challenge and this problem. And this will happen on a European level as well.
I see here the cooperation between the different stakeholders in the ecosystem, let's say also in your case, corporates, probably also universities and startups. It's very important for them to collaborate together, and this is not this field where you have this strong competition. It's something that we would all need to look for solutions, and we'll be probably needing a variety of solutions so that we can combine them together to transition to a more independent state of energy. Do you have some, companies that you're fervently following in the field, clean tech, climate tech?
In the climate crisis way. Well, it's a junior startup, but it was one of the first startups that joined the Green Tech Challenge, and it was this great guy. I really love him. He came and he has done all this research in Colombia, and he came to Green Tech Challenge, and he had all these papers written down, and so he was trying to explain me everything he had done with his research, which was the bottom line is they captivate the CO2 emissions and they convert it to protein. This is the bottom line. But the thing is, he couldn't explain it at the first point, so we worked together, and it was like a highlight because he was the winner of the Green Tech Challenge at the end. So I'm going to go with this example. The company is called Solmeia, and they've done so many things ever since. I totally admire them.
We will be also following them. Let's see. Your startup, Mantis Business Innovation, is a spin-off of the university, the National Technical University of Athens. Your
correct
alma mater as well, right? Tell me, how is this connection between the universities and entrepreneurs happening? Did you receive some kind of support, or were you part of some program which was at the university, or how is this facilitated in a broader scale? Is it facilitated?
Actually, we are the facilitators. Okay. This is part of what we do. Actually, when I was telling you about the governmental support, they are now willing to provide 15 million to universities to raise research to entrepreneurship. So this means so many more entrepreneurial courses or even accelerators within the universities. This is the idea. So in terms of Mantis, what we do is working closely with the universities to provide them all the necessary tools and methodologies to actually launch an accelerator. We have already done it in the National Technical University of Athens, and that was the launch of the Green Tech Challenge, which is the accelerator of DUA, and we started like 4 or 5 years ago, and we were like only 20, I think, teams in environmental technologies, but then it kept coming more and more more people came into the process, more researchers, more people with ideas. So it's something like it's a newborn child. You start, and then more and more have to follow. This is the way it goes.
Okay.
So this is the way we work with researchers, with idea holders, with all innovators within the university.
And how do researchers actually fund their own research so that it flows in some kind of, technology transfer? How is actually this technology transfer happening, for instance, at the Technical University of Athens?
There are many funding programs. Basically, they are coming from Europe, like Horizon, maybe you have heard of them.
Of course, yes.
And researchers usually go after these programs.
Okay.
But I'm not going to say it's the best way to go, because these processes have strict guidelines and ways to go forward, and it's not the best option, but that's all that there is right now.
Okay.
Other than that, we work via the accelerators to, create a committee of investors to network all these researchers who are partially becoming entrepreneurs now. And they want to market their research. They just, it's very, very different. Research and then business, there are two different worlds.
It's a totally different mindset, and this is why we need this kind of programs, okay?
In research, you usually have to explain your every statement. You have to, write down who you took it from, and you do all of your work basically for the research and for the process, and you don't care about the results. Whereas on the entrepreneurship, it's the exact, I'm not going to say exact opposite, but it's quite different, because we care about the process, but we mostly care about the products that we market. So researchers, when they are looking to fund themselves, they do have these funding programs from Europe, but if they are in a hurry to find all these to launch all these products, it's not easy. So we work in a way to create a network of investors, to collaborate with them, or even connect them with corporations who are able to invest in them.
How do you do that?
Via the accelerators. This is how it happens. We launch them.
Okay.
We have a training period. We call them bootcamp trainings. We work closely with methodologies like the business model canvas and the value proposition canvas to make sure we validate their ideas. And then we usually host pitching competitions where startups, entrepreneurs, and researchers present their ideas. And we usually have a committee of corporates, people from corporates who are on the energy market, for example. And we actually connect the winners with its industry, the corporation industry, the industry partner, with a startup. And if they have a match, they can run a proof of concept together, or they can have a pilot together. This is how it works.
Okay. And corporations learn more and more to work with the startups, or what is the reaction of because I can only guess that the energy sector is very old-fashioned and they have like a different mindset probably. How do they adapt to this startup way of thinking and doing stuff?
I'm not gonna lie, it was quite difficult in the beginning. Like they wouldn't even understand what the accelerator really was about. So there was a period and a time that we had even to train them to understand their needs. But that was a good thing, because now after 4 to 5 years, we are on a good place, I'm gonna say. Okay. And we have more and more industries who are willing to become part of this. Like even, in Greece, we have a big tradition on tourism. So the tourism industry now seeks more prop tech and more technological solutions as well. Which we have the sun, we have the beach, we have the sea. We didn't need anything else. So the tourism industry wouldn't look to find technological solutions, but now they do.
Okay. Well, technology transfer and obviously also education has been somehow the broken link in the whole Southeastern European region. So I can only guess that we can look at the best practices and also learn from each other. And in this sense, I wanted to ask you, obviously, when we just act as separate countries in Southeast Europe, we will be exploring less opportunities, I think, for each and everyone. I think we are coming now to the stage where we will be building a brand which is for the whole region. If you have to maybe name a couple of verticals which will be like, the typical where, the Greek startup ecosystem will probably specialize, what would it be like? What is the trademark of the Greek startup ecosystem? You mentioned once tourism. Obviously, there is also more and more connection and exchange between also the old economy, let's put it like this, and the startup businesses.
What else would be the industry? Of course, I'm going to go with the green tech industry. And, since we talked before about the energy independence that needs to happen,
yes.
We are definitely going this way. And since we talked about numbers, I told you we started with 20 teams on the Green Tech Challenge of 2017. But in 2021, we were even like 200 of them. So it was 10 times more. And there's a raise of interest regarding the environmental aspect. So the second industry should be that. I think it's the first, not the second. Then it would be the tourism, I think. And, the rest of it is mostly technologies in software and crypto that will come within the next years. We're a little behind on that, but I think we're going to go this way with all the cryptocurrencies and the blockchain technologies.
You probably also have a good feeling of where the next generation of entrepreneurs is going to go, because you're part of the university structure. So probably you have also a good feeling of the students. What is that is fascinating to them? I know that for the young generations, especially Gen Z, they really would like, to explore a career in entrepreneurship, which was, I would say, maybe a bit untypical for someone who was in my generation of millennials, of the Gen Ys.
It was. I think it still kind of is. In a way, there's a stereotype, mostly from parents, who usually advise their kids that the entrepreneurial career, it's not the best part to go. It's not the best path. And, mainly in Greece, I think we have this way of condemning entrepreneurs. Like if there's a severe businessman, people in Greece would go like, okay, they only care about their profits, but it's not that way, because a suitable and a sustainable business always has, goes in a way that raises living standards.
Okay.
But not all of them realize that. So the new generations are really into starting new entrepreneurial activities. But I think we have a long way to go, because what we've learned from our parents, it's like it's easier to become part of an already existing structure. It's more stable, it's more steady, it's easier, rather than being an entrepreneur on your own.
Definitely.
So we need to educate them as well.
Yes.
And this will happen in the universities.
And also the other aspect that we're now pretty much going into this collaborative way of doing stuff. So you don't have the big CEO who is, pulling down his decisions or her decisions in a very authoritative way. But this is what I really like about the startup ecosystem, is that it's more about collaboration and cooperating together and specializing on what you're really good at, going for, shooting for the moon to be really the best at what you do on a global level, and rather help others and give back also to the younger generations. In this sense, tell me, so Christos was the ideologist behind Mantis. You joined at a bit later stage. How is your relationship now developing? What did you learn about having a business partner and running a business together in the meanwhile?
Well, it's hard. It's not easy because both of us, we're kind of stubborn and like hard personalities. We disagree a lot, and we become confrontational with each other many times. But the thing is, we have mainly the same vision, the same goals, so we work together for what's best. So at the end of every discussion, we always have joined a leadership style which is more collaborative, and we make sure that all team members are on board on what we are looking to implement and what we are looking to address. So having a business partner who he's going to be there or she's going to be there for you at any point, and fill in the gaps or become complementary to you, because each one of us has different characteristics and different aspects we're good at. So it's very important that we are complementary to each other and how we work forward to succeed.
I think this is a very important aspect when you do business together. So somehow we always subtly tend to go after our bias, to look for, to prefer people who are like us, who would be, that we would agree with, or they would agree with us. And in business is totally the opposite. I think being different and having a co-leadership team of people who are bringing different types of characteristics and mentality, but still unified by a common vision and probably also values, is very important. Tell me about values. So you started as a competitive gymnast in the beginning, and then you went for civil engineering, and now you are in the business of innovation and probably also teaching a lot to startups of how to construct and develop their entrepreneurial thinking. Which would be the most important values to you in your business life?
The most important for me, and what I obtained via the gymnastics and the engineering background, the most important is going to be persistence, discipline. You get very much disciplined, always be on schedule. Teamwork, even though I said it fourth, I think it's going to be the first one. It was very important to me, even on my very beginning, even on my school years. It comes with me to all the way in all the years. It's very important for me to be part of a team, to contribute to them, to lead them, to make sure that everyone is on board and happy with the decisions that are being made. So teamwork and the collaborative spirit is number one for the values. And it's very important to have embraced diversity, the inclusion part, where you actually include everyone with different ideas and different thoughts and different mentalities to actually work for the same vision. This is the hard part. And the most important, because you asked me about the business partner, even if you have disagreements, it's the trust behind everything, the thing that you have someone to back you up.
Did you have situations where you would disagree on a decision, but you still commit that you're going to follow it and see, okay, maybe this is the I don't know, the right one, let's experiment and let's see. Have you had this kind of situation?
Yes, that's mainly how it works, because I respect very much the hierarchy. So the roles that we have separated within the company is Christos is the CEO, so he has the final saying. So of course we're going to discuss if I have a different opinion, but the final saying is his. Okay. So this is the way we go forward.
Okay. Do you believe that entrepreneurs have a bigger role to play in the society? And maybe here it's also appropriate to ask you, what makes an entrepreneur? Is it a title in the CV, or does it mean something more?
It's definitely not a title. Definitely not. Well, yes, I'm sure that entrepreneurs, they have the most combined minds to solve the new challenges that we face in the world. So if you back up a place with entrepreneurial minds to think over a problem, they will probably find the solution. That's the one part. And you don't have to be a good scientist, or you don't have to be a good inventor to become a good entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur. But you really need to have someone on your team who has been into research, who has gone to this path, in order to understand this process as well, while marketing new products, when launching new products. Mm-hmm. I think it's important to have this component on your team. And so yes, the entrepreneurs, they're not being made by titles. They're being made they're characterized by their decisions, I think. Mm-hmm. And how they're going to contribute to the economy, and in different ways to solve challenges, and this is the way to go forward for them.
Don't you think that entrepreneurs are in a way problem solvers? So I would say that I think each of us can be an entrepreneur. It doesn't have to be your professional capacity, but it could be also your mindset. Mm-hmm. And this problem-solving mindset. How do you think we can spread this kind of thinking to a broader part of the society?
Mm-hmm. I think this will happen again via universities, with more entrepreneurial and courses, with more workshops within people, making them realize that a failure is not a bad thing. For example, that you need to try even if you think you're going to fail. Mm-hmm. And actually, this is not the failure part, but we need to give people understand this. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, I had very much trouble in failing. I think everyone had it, but I remember when I stopped on gymnastics. That was because I was I had on the ultimate phase that my body couldn't handle it anymore, and I was pressing myself, and then I couldn't even walk at some point. Mm-hmm. So this is how when I stopped, and then I went to I started swimming, and I went to a competition when I was actually fourth, and I couldn't handle being the fourth person. So we need to educate people, and even from younger times, like very, very young people, from ages to 3 and above, coming into sports, realizing that failure is not a problem and they need to go.
How did you hack it for yourself, actually? Because you mentioned you were fourth and it was hard for you.
Mm-hmm.
How
I
did
skipped
you manage
swimming.
it?
I skipped it.
So at some point you gave up swimming because
I
you weren't
like
good
it.
enough?
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't like it in the first place because I only went to swimming because of the problem with the gymnastics. Gymnastics was my forever and one love. And but I couldn't handle it. Yeah, I skipped it. I stopped it right after.
And how is it now for you as an entrepreneur, where potentially failure is in every decision that you take?
I think within the years I have embraced, I have embraced this feeling, and I've realized that I shouldn't feel that way. It's not a failure. It's a part of education, and it's a part of self-improvement and being better. So thinking of that, you do realize it's not really failure, and you realize how to start over and overcome all these obstacles.
So failure is just, a
It's
label.
a mindset.
It's just a label that someone, gives at some point, but it's actually part of the growth process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I think. And it's a state of mind, of course, because if you see it as a failure, then it is. If you don't, and you see it as a self-improvement, then it's not.
That's actually, a very important shift. I totally agree with you. I also started at some point looking at it like that. And I was also grateful for all the lessons that I actually had the chance to learn. And it usually happened in the worst times. Of course, now looking it back, it gives me a different perspective. And I also sometimes now do an experiment with me whenever I feel totally out of me or desperate or I don't know, fearful. I try to mentally put myself into the mind of a 90-year-old Irina, let's say, and ask her, and what would you think about the situation which is happening now? And then you see that on the bigger scale of things, so little of them actually matter, and there are, certain aspects that really deserve your focus, but the others are just a distraction somewhere on the way.
But it's hard. Yes. It's hard. It's hard to go this way mentally.
I think we're very much caught up in situations which over time we look with different eyes. But it's an interesting experiment.
Yeah, it is. But we are, the toughest opponents of ourselves. We are making the obstacles to ourselves. And as soon as we realize that, then you can do whatever it is you're meant to do.
True. Can I also ask you to make an experiment? Let's say you would be able to speak to a 90-year-old or, 100-year-old Niki. What do you think she would be most happy with in this life? Or what would you like her to be most happy with in your life? To see if she looks back.
Okay, so, well, that's deep. Yeah, that's deep. I've never thought about it. Okay, the thing is, of course, there's the professional part where I want my 100-years-old Niki to feel like she has contributed. She didn't just work. She had a job where she was offering and she was contributing to the society by helping and providing to entrepreneurial minds. So that's one part. And I think I'm on the good direction right now because I have realized it and I'm going this way. And the other part is mainly how you want to be as a person. Like you don't want to end up a city person because you had all this great work and business and you were successful. You made a lot of money. You became a unicorn. You don't want to lose yourself in the meantime. So I need her to preserve all the characteristics that makes her, a good person, a good partner, a good friend, a good person in total.
A good person.
So this would be the best mix.
And how would you like her to be remembered? As a good person and someone who contributed to society?
How I want her to be remembered? Yeah, sometimes we have all these stories about great people like Steve Jobs, who were very difficult and very hard, and they made people miserable. No, I don't want to be that person. So
it's actually weird that after everything that he created, I think this is the one thing
that everyone remembers. Yeah,
isn't it?
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. So I don't want that. I want a mix. Yeah, I want a mix.
Oh, Niki, thank you. Thank you so much for this honest conversation.
In the next episode of the Recursive podcast, we welcome Jordan Stoev. He is the head of crypto and trading, Skrill and Netella at PaySafe Group.
So part of this is actually to realize that you can never be exactly at the top of your game.
Okay.
So that realization and that humbleness allows you to kind of strive for it, right? Because people that think they're on top of their game, they don't usually last there very long. So you have to be ambitious, you have to stay curious, and you have to be humble enough and flexible enough to understand that sometimes you can also make a mistake. Admit it and move on, right? That's very important in investing, I think, in my professional career as well, and in crypto as well, right? Sometimes you make mistakes, you misjudge something, move on, right? Accept it, be flexible, right? Because the world we live in, and in crypto specifically, there's so many things going on, so much innovation. There's no way to stay on top of everything. But you need to strive to know as much as possible, and you need to be, again, flexible enough to understand when you're wrong.
And if you're just as passionate about innovation as we are, hit subscribe for the Recursive podcast on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. We're everywhere.